What's up, boys and girls? This is Spitlogic, and today I want to talk about the use of sound, how sound can be used to manipulate, change the vibe, or create a particular kind of setting inside of your beat. And using different effects, using the different options that are in the SP44 Mark II, and how that can enhance, how that can change, and how it can vary between the same types of sounds and create two completely different types of songs. So let's get started. Okay, so for the purposes of this video, I've already chopped all the samples. I've already, chosen what my different drum kits are going to look like. And just as an example, on this top row, I have a more traditional, more boom bap kind of drum kit. And then on the bottom row, let's say I have a more modern or a more trappy kind of drum kit. And we're about to see, I'm about to give you an example of how the same sample, the same melody going across a particular beat can completely change the dynamics of a song. So first I'll go into pattern mode. And let's hit the record button. We're at about 90 BPMs. I think that's around what the sample is at, around 90. We'll go with pad 1 when you go into pattern mode, and we'll bring this up from 2 to 4 bars. We'll just do a quick 4 bar pattern minus any sort of drums in the background to begin with. So hit record again. It's going to count down. And here, this is where my samples are. So let me rehearse it and find something. Okay, so that's my simple pattern, and I'm going to copy this pattern so that I have two of the same pattern, right? So for number one, we're going to record a traditional drum over it. So I'm on the pattern, hit record, hit 1, hit record again. Without any rehearsal, I'm just going to do a drum on it. All right, so let's go with pattern 2, and same pattern, but we're going to use the trap kit on it, right? So let's hit record, hit the pattern, no rehearsal, just right into it. And as you can see, the same pattern that I use with two different drum kits has a completely different sound. So you can't really say that either sounds better or worse. It's really all a matter of your particular taste, but certainly in listening to this, you have an understanding that the drums you pick and that drum kit that you pick has a very significant effect on what your melody is going to end up sounding like. So if we get into just the samples themselves and just kind of sample manipulation, one thing that I typically do off the rip, when I get my chops together, the first thing that I do, I go to pitch speed and I think about bringing that pitch up or down. So Since I already have it in a mute group, when you hit that copy button, it does it to everything. So instead of having it at its normal pace, I like to start at -4. That's where I like to begin at. So and you can hear right there that just between 1 and -4, it completely changes the context, the texture of the sample, but also since you're in vinyl mode, it changes the speed of it too. So the original speed is about 90 BPMs, and you hear that sound, but when I bring it down, and it gives it a whole new feel, a whole new texture to it. So if we go back to our original kit, so and let's do what we did before. So in that original pattern that I had, right? You can see this is So what happens to that same pattern when it's slowed down by that -4? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to get rid of the drums on this one, right? I hit record on here, and I want to bring those BPMs down to 71. And that's where it was originally. Now, I'll get out of there. Let me get out of record, go back to the actual samples. And there, as you can see, they are at -4, 71.4 BPMs. And that is what is estimating the BPMs are going to be. So going back, hit record, pad 3, 71 BPMs. Let's hear what it sounds like. Totally different, right? So let me copy that. Matter of fact, I'm going to copy that one more time, just so we stick with that particular pattern. And I'm going to put drums, the traditional as well as the modern, behind each of them, right? So go to record. Start with the traditional. Okay, and now let's do it over this one using the modern beat. And I'm probably going to do the hi-hats a lot faster. You know, for some reason, just doing it with a different melody, just doing it with a different kit, I actually ended up drumming it differently as well. As you can hear, like, that hi-hat was a lot faster on here than it was on this one. Also, the pattern was a little different, right? So again, changing the pitch on there can really have an interesting effect on the sound of what you're actually recording. And another thing that you can end up doing, So going back to going into the pitch speed mode, there are actually two different modes that you can use. The vinyl mode, when you're pitching it up or down, or if you're using the speed, which is going to be this dial, it's not only going to change the pitch of it, but it's also going to change the speed along with it. So going up and down will change the speed, and you can see by the BPMs how they change with the speed. The pitch, the difference between pitch and speed is the actual, it's more like using the knob on a turntable deck. It actually controls how fast or how slow something goes in increments. The way that pitch is set up, look at it as the whole of the speed of the record being chopped up into segments, and this goes all the way down to 12. So chopped into segments of 12. So 1/12 of it is -1, and 1/12 of this speed is at 94% speed, according to the way that the SP44 Mark II calibrates different speeds in vinyl mode. The other mode that you can go into is kind of a time stretch mode, and you can make that change by holding down the shift button. You hold down the shift and you pull the knob up, and you see scent come up, right? You hold it down, and what's going to happen here is that the pitch is going to change, but the BPMs or the speed is going to stay the same. So this knob right here will still control the speed or the BPMs, but if you change the pitch, it will stay at those same BPMs. I typically do not like using this because I feel like the slower it goes, the more degraded you can hear. So, for example, I'm at 90 BPM, and that's the regular speed. So I'm at 90 BPMs, and if I hit copy, I'll do it to the whole mute group to keep it at 0. As I bring it down, it'll stay at 90 BPMs, but it'll slow down. So if I bring it to my traditional -4, so it's still at 90 BPMs, but it still has that lower tone. And this is part of the problem that I have with this particular mode. If you listen to it at 0, when I bring it down to 4, you can hear it kind of a grainy, choppiness to the sample. And it becomes more apparent the lower you go. And I don't like the way that sounds. Now, oddly enough, when you go up, it's more apparent, but I don't mind it sped up as much as I do with it slowed down, which is a little odd. So another thing that I find a little bit interesting when dealing with samples and just dealing with pitch and speed of the samples, as you can see right here, again, in vinyl mode, as the speed speeds up and slows down, so do the BPMs. Right now, at 100%, at 0 pitch, my BPMs are at 90. And I'm not sure if this applies to every single one, but maybe this is a formula for samples. But if I pitch this all the way down to 12, now my vinyl is at -12 pitch, but the BPMs are at 45. And this is 50% speed. So mathematically speaking, double that is 90, half of that is 45, which means this is the same speed as this. I'm going to pick every other one of these samples and I'm going to put it at 12. So this one, 12, 5, 12, 7, 12. So if I go back to record, 90 BPM, let me go to 4 bars. And let's copy this. Let's make 2 of them, and let's see how these sound under different drums. So go to record, and we'll record this one on the traditional. Another thing that I've always found useful is not only just how you can chop the different samples, but using those different effects to kind of change the way that the sample is used and utilized. And what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to take a sample from another part. Take this sample. I'm going to take this sample and let's go to bank D. Put the sample here. So I have this sample isolated, and let's say I want to do something with just part of this sample, just the beginning. Now, these effects on the Mark II are probably some of the best effects that I've ever heard or seen, and that includes any DAWs. And a great thing that you can do if you hear something on here and you want to kind of manipulate it and change it, you have in your head a different kind of sound, you can start layering it by layering these different effects on the particular sample. So let's start with the delay. That's what I typically start with. Let's go with the delay here. Let's go with one effect, right? Now, the Mark II deals in terms of bus when we're dealing with samples. So if I go to the second bus, I can add a different effect in addition to that. So let's go under multi-effects. Let's look at something like maybe like a chorus. Take that noise out. Okay, I like that. Something different, something a little bit weird, right? Now you can go even further than that, and you can use the other effects in the other 2 bus on the Mark II. The Mark II has 4 bus. So if I hit Shift and Effect Settings, now it shows the other 2 bus. And using this knob right here, I can go back to bus 3 and bus 4. Now, on this first screen, this is the preset, which you already have. And this is what I typically use, equalizer and compressor. I'm going to turn the knob and go to favorites number 2, and then I can manipulate those from there. So I already have ring mod on here and a Juno on here. Let me change that Juno to maybe another echo, like that tape echo. Let's see how it sounds. So this ring mod, I have a ring mod on here, and really on here, this, when you go across the tabs over here for the different effects, it's already going to be, the first selection that you make is going to be the actual effect. So if I hit this enter button, that's going to change the effect. I can go to these different effects right here. Hitting enter kind of locks in that effect, and then as you can see right here where those little white lines are, this is the parameters that I can change around. So I don't have to push anything when I go to the parameters, but they correspond with these three knobs. So and you can just play around with these just to kind of see what works for you. Now, obviously, once you've put these kind of effects in, it's going to be very difficult for you to utilize this without doing a lot of significant changes to your overall melody with these effects in place. So what I like to end up doing, once I've said, you know, this is what I want as a sound, you can do one of two things. One way to you can resample the actual sound and then use it as part of another pad. So if I hit the resample button right here, it'll say to select a pad for recording. We're going to go with pad 2, and then it's going to ask you to hit a pad, which is this one, right? You hear that distortion at the end. So that's what I have. And once I'm done, I hit record, recording complete. So now I have this sample, which now it's a lot more distorted because I still have those effects on here. But one thing that does happen, which is interesting, which I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan of, but after you've resampled something using the Mark II, bus 1 and bus 2 reset. As you notice, none of these are lit up. Bus 1 and bus 2, they went right back to bypass. But if you just hit the same button, it keeps that same effect and the same settings in those effects. But essentially, it resets after you resample something. Another thing that you can do outside of just resampling it, and shout out to SP Vids for coming up with this brilliant idea, there is the skip back feature on the Mark II. So even though I'm listening to this on here, the Mark II has, let's call it the FBI feature, where it records the last 30 seconds. So if I just hit mark, if I hit mark, it'll go into skip back, and it will have everything that I just did, I think, for the last 30 seconds. So hitting sub pad, you can hear all of the stuff that I did earlier, right? To include the distortion. And in order to save what you just skipped back, you hit the record button, and it will ask you what pad you want to save it on. So I'll just save it on 3, and those last 30 seconds are here on as a pad. So let's see real quick just how this new sample sounds. It's at 90 BPM, and then one thing you should not forget to do, hold on, let me go back to effect settings. I need to go back to my original one, which is the equalizer and compressor. So that's the original sample. That's the sample we created. And that was from the skip back, right? So I'm taking the gate off of this one, and I'm going to make the drum over this particular melody. So let's go back to patterns. We're going to start a new pattern. We'll just do 9 and 10. Let's do 4 bars. And we'll use this one. So there it is. Let's copy that. And let's do 2 different drums over this. Start with the traditional. Here we go. Okay, so let's do it again with the more modern drum kit. Anyway, that's all I had. Just a quick video just to talk about sound, soundscapes, distortion, effects, and how that kind of affects the way that your music ends up sounding. Hope you got something out of it. Thanks for the view. Thanks for the listen. And until next time, peace.